Hello, welcome to the Internet Legends Film Review Show. I'm Herbert Midgley, the Internet Legend.
And I'm Ricky Kennedy, and I am not the Internet Legend.
And the difference about this film critic show versus any other ones is that we both have made feature films. I made, of course, The Rise of the Robots.
And I have made and wrote and directed The History of Time Travel.
And so, as both going through the process of making films, I think our review show is a little more unique than some of the other review shows out there. So we just got through watching Star Wars, The Force Awakens, right?
Yes.
And it is the second time for both of us to see it. We both saw it initially, not together, but on the premiere night.
Yes.
And then this is we're filming this on New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. And so we had a little bit of time to go through this. And so Ricky, I know you're a major Star Wars fan of the prequels and the original ones. Why don't you go first and kind of talk about your observations of The Force Awakens?
Okay. Well, one of the things that's interesting about the Star Wars sequels is that I never thought they would actually get made. We'd always been told, yes, they were these ideas that Lucas had sometime in the 80s, that there were going to be other sequels made at some point. Mark Hamill had even done interviews in the 80s talking about, he would be an old man and he would pass the lightsaber down to the next generation. But once Lucas had made the prequels, he said, you know what, I'm done. I think I'm just going to wrap it up after 6 films, and there's never going to be a sequel trilogy. And so, like a lot of people, I was like, okay, that's fine. We've got 6 great Star Wars films, so I'm going to move on. Well, then the announcement came that they were going to make new Star Wars films, and that Lucas had sold it to Disney, and that he was able to get Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill and the entire original cast to come back. So it was all very, very surreal. So I went into seeing this movie with a slight detachment, because it's the first Star Wars movie that's basically made without George Lucas's involvement. He had initially wrote some outlines, and Disney decided to kind of go their own way, and so he decided to just kind of step back and let them do their own thing. And it's also the first Star Wars film that's made by Star Wars fans, that generation that was actually influenced by the films. So I knew going in that it was going to be sort of a different animal. And my reaction is to the film is that it's great. It is exactly a Star Wars movie. And it's the type of Star Wars movie that everyone's been wanting to see. And it's very much in the spirit of the original trilogy. Not necessarily in the same tone, because those films are, in the way Lucas made them, are very classical in a sense, in terms of the filmmaking style. And even more so with the prequels, which are almost neoclassical in the way he approaches the acting and the directing and the art direction and the pacing and cinematography, everything. And so the way I look at it is that if the original films were sort of the present and the prequels were the past, then the sequel trilogy needs to reflect the future of Star Wars. So the Stormtroopers and the Star Destroyers, everything sort of has a new, shiny, almost Apple iPad aesthetic, particularly the Stormtroopers. They look like the stuff that we're familiar with, but they're a little bit sleeker, a little bit more modern, and that extends to the filmmaking itself. It's a lot more visceral than the older films. The pacing is a lot more relentless. There's a lot more camera movement. It is very much as a modern film would approach any type of action film, but this is certainly new to the Star Wars universe. And so, in that regard, the first time I saw the film, that slightly took me back a little bit. I was expecting it, but it's still kind of weird to see it for the first time. It's like, wow, they don't really do that in Star Wars. Like, for an example, and this will be a spoiler filled review.
It's going to be full of spoilers.
So, for example, very early in the film, one of the Stormtroopers is shot, and he basically grabs his wound and he touches one of the characters, another Stormtrooper's helmet, and we see blood. And very rarely do you ever see blood in a Star Wars movie. In the first film, when Obi-Wan cuts off a hand in the cantina, you see some blood. But generally, when the Stormtrooper is shot, that's it. They're just shot as a blast, and that's it. So that right off the bat signals that this is going to be a little bit more grittier, a little bit more visceral than the older films. So they do that very early in the film to kind of, I guess, prepare you for that. So in that sense, the acting is phenomenal. The new characters are fantastic. John Boyega is great, and he has really, I would say, more of a he's sort of the hero, but he's also sort of a sidekick, comic relief in a lot of ways. But he's really good, and Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron has a smaller part of the big three new characters, but he's very engaging, and he's very much a by the books, old-fashioned hero. I mean, he's deliberately old-fashioned, which I think is great. But really, the standout of the three new heroes is Daisy Ridley, who plays Rey, and she is just fantastic in the film. And she's sort of like Princess Leia on acid. Everything that was great about Princess Leia just tenfold in this character. And she really dominates the film and basically steals it out from under everyone. One of the other new characters is Adam Driver, who plays Kylo Ren, the new bad guy. And he is also very, very good. And a very different villain than what we've normally seen in a Star Wars movie. Generally, we've had Darth Vader, who was, very robotic, very monotone, and very calm. If someone failed him, it was a simple, force choke or, apology accepted. He was very calm about the way he went around murdering people. But with Kylo Ren, he is just, I believe the term is, and you can bleep this out, is bat crazy. He is just insane. He is so unstable, and there's a lot of humor that comes from that with the stormtroopers and everyone avoiding him when he gets mad. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of funny because in some ways he's actually more whiny and emo than Anakin ever was, but he's a lot more dangerous, which makes it more interesting. So of the new cast is great, and the old cast is good, but of course this is really Harrison Ford's movie of the old characters coming back, and he is just terrific, and he just picks up like no time has passed at all, even though a lot of time has passed, and that's very much informed in his character. But it's great. I mean, he has probably my favorite line in the film. Rey and Finn ask him, are you the Han Solo, the rebel general, the smuggler? Are you the Han Solo? And he has this great line. It's like, yeah, I used to be, which is great. That's such a Han Solo thing to say. And he's just terrific in the film. And it was great to see him because I didn't think he'd ever come back. So the fact that they were able to lure him back for a Star Wars movie is terrific. And just seeing him and Chewie again in the Falcon, that alone is worth the price of admission. So there's a lot of positives to this film. It's very entertaining. It's fun to watch. It's very funny. Probably the funniest film since, I guess, the original Star Wars movie. If I do have any criticisms for the film, they're really more nitpicks, and the biggest criticism is that it's very much a retread of A New Hope. And there's a lot of callbacks to the original trilogy, to all three films, as a matter of fact. And the battle at the end is very much a let's blow up the Death Star type of end-game sequence. And it's just bigger, as most of the stuff is. Whenever you do a sequel, you just keep making it bigger. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for this first film in the trilogy, because all they really need to do is set up the new characters, get us all liking them, get us interested in their stories, and have some sort of little battle that they can resolve at the end, and then move on to the next film where they get deep in the mythology and go deeper into the characters. So for that, I kind of give it a pass on that. It would have been fun to see something other than let's blow up the Death Star again. But really, it's done so well that you enjoy it despite you've seen something similar to this. So that's really the only big criticism I have of the film, is that it retreads a lot of things. But overall, it's such a fun movie to watch, and even better the second time I saw it, because I knew what was going to happen. I knew, you know, who all the new characters were, and I could kind of just savor it a lot more. Certainly leaves the door open for lots of new possibilities, which is great. I've never had that before in a Star Wars movie because I've always known what's going to happen. Growing up, I always knew who Darth Vader was. That was never a big surprise. For me, that was just common knowledge. Same thing with the prequels. I enjoyed them a lot, but we knew essentially what was going to happen. But with this new trilogy, we're certainly now in unknown territory where we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to survive. And that's very, very, very exciting. If I was going to give it a star rating, say out of 4 stars, I think certainly 3 to 3.5 stars. Probably lean more to 3.5 stars. It's such a fun film. If it hadn't been so much of a retread of some of the stuff we've seen, it probably would have been 4 stars. So I would put it near, it's probably top 3, top 4 Star Wars movies. It's a lot of fun. It's probably the most entertaining of them. You can sit down and watch it and have a good time. But it does help if you've seen the other films. Phantom Menace and A New Hope, you can walk into those not knowing what Star Wars is and watch them and have a story with a beginning and middle and end. This one ends with a little bit of a cliffhanger, but it just leaves you excited for the next film.
Well, I'm going to say that this is actually a large-scale fan film, and that's the way that if you gave somebody that's making Star Wars fan films, what's the budget on this one?
It's probably $200 million to $250.
If you gave a fan $250 million, this is something potentially that they could have came up with. It's a fun ride. I enjoyed it a lot more the second time, and maybe also this. We both saw it in 3D the first time, right?
Yes.
We saw it 2D this time. I personally think it works better in 2D. So my thoughts on this is that definitely it's a fan film, and it's a fun ride. I mean, obviously somebody who made this film enjoyed Star Wars. We saw him previously doing the Star Trek films, and I thought the Star Trek films at the time really felt more like a Star Wars film than I'm a big Star Trek fan of the mythology of the morality plays that goes on in Star Trek is really important to me. It's a fun ride. I love the new characters. I love the new characters. There's some small questions on some aspects of why certain things happen. The bad guy, Kylo Ren, Han Solo's son, Whip Swaller.
We warned you before. Spoilers.
You know, having someone that's that dangerous with the Force and that volatile is interesting, and it worked better for me the second time. The first time I was like, how does this guy have the Force? And he's like, well, why would the Force choose this guy for this? But anyway, it worked better the second time. And I think one of my big questions is, why is he wearing a mask? Because Darth Vader wore a mask for a reason. He was, burned up and everything. It makes sense. Darth Maul didn't. He just had some makeup on, maybe. Tattoos.
Well, depending on the canon, sometimes it's tattoos that were put on him by Darth Sidious, and other times that's just his alien species, and he looks like that anyway.
Whatever. But it wasn't a mask, though. It wasn't a helmet. And I guess I don't know where he got Darth Vader's helmet at, but I would have thought that it got burned up. But
I have an interesting theory about that, and I'll tell you in just a little bit after you do your review.
But it's really, if you just go in there and sit and enjoy films, it is a modern way. It's a modern way you cut films. There's a lot more action. The CGI looks really good. It looks like a $250 million film, not a $10,000 film at all. And it's the older characters. Han Solo definitely is the one that stands out on there. I think they heard some flack about Leia, not doing a great job in 2D. I thought she did a lot better job than in 3D. I don't know why.
I've never had any problem with her performance. I think it's great. But again, we're seeing these characters in a whole different.
Yeah, they're 30 years.
It's 30 years later.
And this time, I mean, everything she said felt like there was royalty there, a command of this military. She was kind of impressed to become some type of military general when she's really a princess and things like that. So I thought she did fine. I wish you know, this is more like for the fangirls out there. I wish Han and Leia would have made out or something like that. You know, but a hug, I guess, is all, you know, is all you'll get. You know, it's fun. I do some of the small criticisms, like, you know, it is a rehash of the original trilogy, the first one, Death Stars and things like that. And we talked about this a little bit. If you go watch a James Bond film, if you go watch a Terminator film, even like a Star Trek film, there's certain things that happen.
Formula.
There's a formula for these films that know what they are, and in a lot of ways, this felt more like a Star Wars film to me than the prequels, and you have good arguments for why the prequels are the way that the prequels are, versus the original trilogy and now this new potential trilogy that's coming out. I'm thinking they're going to make the second movie. I think they're going to have big success with this film. That they're after $1 billion.
Yes.
I think they got greenlit for the second film already.
Yeah, they're apparently they're already filming it right
okay,
now.
It's already filming right now. But it's a fun ride. And again, we talked about this before, and I think George Lucas also knows this way. You're not going to make every fanboy happy. It's just too complicated. When you went in to watch Star Wars, and I got to see Star Wars as a little kid, and I remember Empire a lot better. But it's basically, you know, you kind of know the canon of Jedis and these wizards and lightsabers and the Force and these ships going on. So to make something that's new and fascinating story-wise, this might be, I hate to say the best, but this is definitely one way to bridge that gap of these 30 years, introducing new characters that you're automatically going to like. My humble opinion, I really like these characters more so than the prequels, the characters in general. There's something more likable than
Queen I would agree with that.
Queen Al, you know, the day and those blah blah blah, whatever it is. You know, it's really, like you said, more stoic-ish, more classical, you know, versus this is more.
It's one of those things where she's stuck having to be a senator or a queen, so there's a lot of formalities that have to be carried. And these characters don't have to worry about that because they're basically nobodies. You have a stormtrooper and a junk scavenger on a desert planet, so they have the ability to be anyone. So they're not trapped in a sense.
And so, you know, with that being what it is, it's a fun ride. And as a filmmaker myself, you know, telling story wise, there's a story there, there's a plot that's there. Editing, it's got good editing. It's got good special effects going on. There's a cliffhanger going on. It's open to what could be the future. And it's not a cliffhanger that like makes you hate life. It's like cliffhanger like, well, you know, okay, all right, we come along with this. You know, at the end of Star Wars, the original one, you know, they're getting clapped. Chewie didn't get a medal. Chewie didn't get a medal. He didn't get a medal this one either. So that's wrong. But he does have more. Chewie gets to do a little bit more stuff in this one than he has in a long time.
Probably since, well, I guess if you're watching him in order, this one would come right on the heels of Return of the Jedi. He had quite a bit to do in that during the Battle of Endor. You know, with the Ewoks helping save.
But I tell you what, he must have got a better blaster. His crossbow was a little bit more powerful than in the original.
There's a lot of fun gags they have with that one in this new movie.
So it's a fun ride. I recommend, if I would give it a star rating system, you know, if I forget Star Wars altogether, you know, it without a doubt it's like a 3.5, possibly a 4. You know, you kind of know in Star Wars, it probably makes it more like a 3.5-ish. But it's so easy going in there and tearing up films, and as we both know, because we have made films, it's a tough animal to get a film just done. To get a film that's watchable and enjoyable, that you can say it's 3.5 stars, it's not an easy thing to do, especially this time of day. I went to go watch Point Blank. I don't know if you saw the
No.
Visually, it looks great. But story-wise, it just didn't work. It needs to be re-edited. And anybody that saw that film in Hollywood, they should know that this film's not very good. That we need to do something about it. I don't know if they had it pushed out because of Christmas or whatever. Concussion, the concussion one, done really well. It's not action-oriented like this film is. That one is done really well. So Hollywood is hit and miss. And they got real bucks out there, and so when you see independent films that you can watch it all, it's just really fascinating to me. And so really, in a lot of ways, because this feels to me like a fan film, this with a lot of money, And
it's almost the first Star Wars film that's aware that it's a Star Wars film, and that the characters, even themselves, the new characters, are like, you're Han Solo, you're Luke Skywalker. Even them are excited.
I thought there was a myth.
They're excited to be interacting with these characters. It's very much, and I think this is why the film has proved so popular, is that it is the ultimate wish fulfillment. It's just like, I could be a Jedi, I can hang out with Han Solo and Chewbacca and go save the galaxy, and that's exactly what a fan film would do, is that it really engages the fan, like, I really want to be part of Star Wars. And to a degree, that's probably one of the things that didn't happen with the prequels, was because since it was telling a more tragic story, you really didn't want to be those characters. No one really wants to be Anakin, because you're going to get burned up and trapped in a suit forever. But certainly people want to be Luke, or Leia, or now Rey, and no one wants to be stuck having a senator.
And I'll say this as well, as because I know you like the prequels a lot more than most folks, and you like them more than I do as well.
Yeah, well, to me, they're more. It adds a lot of interesting backstory to the films, and a lot more color, introduces new characters, and just really widens the scope of what Star Wars could be.
But I will say this: after watching this film here, I will give George Lucas some credit for doing something that wasn't a rehash of Star Wars, A New Hope. I mean, it wasn't there's some things, some elements.
Yeah, there's some elements,
but for the most part,
a desert planet and stuff like that. But for the most part,
it wasn't a complete rehash.
Like pod racing was a completely new concept. We had never seen anything like that before, and certain new characters.
So, and I know, and at the time when Phantom Menace came out, it was that 10 years ago.
No, that was already 16 years ago.
So that's 16 years ago.
1999.
Okay. That's right, 16 years ago. So I remember seeing Phantom Menace at the time. I saw it at the midnight showing. They didn't do midnight showings for this one. I don't, whatever. Anyways, but seeing, at the very end, I'll say this. When they went to that planet, they finally went to go find Luke Skywalker. I was hoping that Jar Jar would jump out of the water. Amisa here. Amisa Jedi also.
Misa back. Oh, Murray.
That would have been awesome, and you would have saw everybody just walk out of the movie theater right then. That would have been awesome. It didn't happen though. At least so far, we don't know.
Well, we don't know who this new bad guy is. Supreme Leader Snoke. He's sort of the new. We don't know if he's Sith. I don't think he's Sith. He's some sort of dark force user who's been pulling the strings on Kylo Ren in the First Order. We don't know where he's come from. Yeah. I'm really hoping that he turns out to be Darth Plagueis, who was mentioned in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and that would be Sidious's master, the one who is trying to learn how to cheat death.
Yeah. And
it's very interesting. If you listen to the musical cues that John Williams did for that scene where Darth Sidious, the Emperor Palpatine, is telling Anakin about the story of Darth Plagueis, that music is very similar to the opera scene.
The opera scene.
Yeah, that opera scene is very similar to the music to the Snoke scenes in this film. So that might be a little musical foreshadowing of who this guy is.
Well, I guess the one thing that, again, small criticism. I mean, Disney can do whatever they want to do, but I really kind of thought that you have Sith and Jedi, and that's about it. And then, so you got other people that can manipulate the Force. I don't know. And other things is Kylo Ren, right? He sure seems a whole lot more powerful than even Vader in some ways.
I think that's more a reflection of the more modern film techniques that were used. So I don't necessarily think, I almost know for a fact that Kylo Ren is not more powerful than Vader. It's just that they can do a lot more stuff now to make it a lot more visual, a lot more. He has more of an edge. It's a lot more unpredictable. Because Vader would just come in and it's just like, you underestimate the power of the Force, and he could just go like that, and you're dead. I don't know if Kylo Ren has that power yet. I would assume he probably does, but he's more about imitation, scaring people, taking out his lightsaber, and having a tantrum. Which was hilarious when he tears up the ship. Is great, and the stormtroopers get scared and they turn around and walk back. That's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun because he's so messed up.
And I know you're a big James Bond fan, and apparently
yes,
we saw him a little bit of a cameo.
Yes, the stormtrooper was a great scene. One of the best scenes in the film, I think, is when Rey learns to do a Jedi mind trick, and she tricks a stormtrooper into letting her go, and that stormtrooper was played by Daniel Craig. And I had heard rumors from 7-8 months ago that he had a cameo in the film. He said, "I love Star Wars. I'll be a stormtrooper. I'll run across the screen. No one has to know it's me. It'll be hilarious." And they had shot down that rumor, said, "No, that's not true. That didn't happen." Well, once the film had come out, they had confirmed that was Daniel Craig. And I didn't notice it the first time because I was just so into watching the movie. But now watching it this time, it has his body language, it's his voice.
Is his voice?
It's his voice as well. It's just a lot of fun. It's one of the best cameos someone's ever had in a movie. It's just great. So,
yeah. So
maybe he'll make a cameo again to get his revenge.
Well, I tell you, I'm going to give my special character to the melee stormtrooper. Fighting for the
for the First Order.
First Order, and he went out there and gave the college cry without a doubt. And there are fun scenes like that. I mean, some of the visuals with the space battles look really interesting. Just done really, really well. It's a fun ride. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's a fun ride. If you like Star Wars, you like science fiction films, if you go in there, and in some ways, I wasn't trying to go in there to beat it up. The Star Wars film, and unlike you, I knew nothing. I try not to watch any trailers at all. Get very little stuff off Facebook. Whenever the trailer was playing in a movie theater, I was doing this because I didn't want to know anything. And in some ways, I thought the Phantom Menace was kind of ruined for me a little bit because I knew too much, and I didn't want to know anything about anything at all in here. So I knew very little going in, and it works.
It's funny because even though I had watched all the trailers and a lot of the TV spots, Disney was very wise about what they showed and what they didn't show. So there's still lots of surprises. There's lots of stuff they held back, which is great. They gave you just enough to get excited about.
Because a year ago was that trailer, right?
Yes,
the little teaser or whatever.
Didn't know anything what was going on in that, and even then, one of the characters that spoke in that trailer, the Supreme Leader Snoke, there were no photos of what he looks like until you actually saw the film. And even now, there's stuff that happens in the film that is not in any of the books, photos and stuff like that to avoid the spoilers, which is great, and I really commend them for doing that. Because a perfect example would be the trailer for Terminator Genisys. It gave away a third act reveal plot twist that basically ruined the movie, in my opinion, because I knew watching that trailer, I was like, well, that just gave away the whole movie.
And happily, I didn't watch it, so when I saw it in the movie theater, I was oblivious to it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. That's one reason why, for myself, that any movie I care about, I don't want to see any trailers or anything at all, because I got burnt too many times before, and something I care about. Something I don't care about, I'm fine watching it might actually make me go watch the movie.
And sometimes they use a lot of scenes and shots in the trailer that don't make it into the film, or they edit it in such a way where you think something's happening and then it doesn't. They do that quite a bit, so they can be slightly misleading sometimes.
Well, I think without going into minute by minute details, I think we went over the Star Wars film. So both of us about 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I think so. I assume I will probably, the more I watch it, the more I'm going to enjoy it. But again, it's one of those things where right now, we talk about Star Wars. We always, in a sense, talk about it as a trilogy, or as a saga of 6 films, because we know all this stuff now. So a perfect example would be when Empire came out the first time. The reviews were sort of mixed because it was a lot darker than the first film. It had an unhappy ending. It was a cliffhanger, and people were like, "This is an anti-Star Wars. It's just not as much fun." And then when Return of the Jedi came out, it was more well received because it was fun. It got back to the spirit of adventure. And then as time passed, people could look at it as a whole and say, "Wow, Empire was really the best film in that saga." And so we're only just now, 1/3 of the way through this new trilogy. So this was, in a sense, just an introduction. So the plot could have really been anything, just something to get the heroes going. And on that terms, the film is a complete success of getting us invested in these new characters and seeing where they go.
Well, I kind of like to do this kind of system. We kind of talked about this before. Like, 1 is pay full price, 2 matinee, another one wait for it to come out on video on demand or something like that, or rent it. and other ones go outside and ride your bike or whatever. So what would you put it at?
Oh, this one's definitely go pay full price for me. Or even better, go pay matinee if you can. See it anytime. It works just as well at 2 in the afternoon as it does at 7 o'clock at night. But I would say that if you're at a 7 o'clock or a 10 o'clock show, with the more people there, the better, because this is a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a lot more fun. There's a lot more people there.
And this is a good example of watching why going to the movies is a better experience than only. I would love for folks to see the Rise of Robots in a movie theater. It's harder to these independent films. We both had chances to see our films at a film fest with audiences, and it's a different experience than when you just give them the DVD to watch at home. So this is definitely one that I would say go out and see it. If you're a big Star Wars fan, without doubt, just pay whatever price to it. If you really don't know anything about Star Wars, I'd say at least a matinee. At least a matinee.
And I would say if you don't know anything about Star Wars, there's going to be some stuff you probably don't get. But for the most part, I think someone could probably walk in, never seen Star Wars, and enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, it's not like it's so connected to something together that you can't figure out what it is. So yeah. Well, I guess that's about it for the Star Wars review. Ricky, thanks for being part of this review show. This was one that you had to be on.
Yes.
Because you were such a big Star Wars fan. And we're going to try to do these periodically, get filmmakers in here. We got a lot of friends that are filmmakers, and we watch films and talk about them. And we all have different styles of how we make our own films. But it's really refreshing to go watch a movie, and it's enjoyable by the audience. And you can also tell that there was a love and a funness of them making this film. I do go watch Hollywood films sometimes, and I don't really feel that there was somebody that really cared about this. Someone really cared about making this a fun ride for the fans. And thank you. And again, to kind of advertise our own films, The Rise of Robots is available on Amazon.com right now, and also on video on demand as well.
And The History of Time Travel is available nowhere right now. It's still in the process of going through the film festival circuit, so hopefully there's 3 or 4 I'm waiting to hear back from, so hopefully there will be more announcements in the future. But I'm certainly looking forward the end of this year, hopefully getting it out there in either VOD or some sort of DVD
And you
format.
do have a Facebook page, right?
There's a Facebook page, there's an IMDb page, and you can check out some of the critics' reviews from the film festivals it's been in. Also on Twitter, Ricky Kennedy at RNKFanArt, so check that out. I also post links to different Star Wars videos, fan art, and stuff that I make, so you can always check that out as well.
Definitely. Well, thanks again, Ricky, and thank you all for watching. And it does compute.
May the Force be with you.